Welcome to today's Tech Solutions session, 1220, Making Career Services Hassle-Free. It is my pleasure to turn it over to our session presenter.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eric Garvelink. I'm excited to be with you today and have you join me and learn a little bit about 1220 and what we do to make career services hassle-free. So thank you for the introduction, Ashley and Mace. What I'm going to share with you today is I'm going to give you kind of a high-level overview of our platform and the different features that we have and the different modules and how our platform is customizable and what 1220 does a little bit differently than other platforms and how you'll hear me talk about this data for everyone type of mindset and that we share and how that can be used across campus with all of your constituents at the university. So with that, please feel free to jump into the chat box or the questions, and Ashley from NACE and Amanda, I believe, will be monitoring some of those, and then we'll have time at the end to answer any questions that you might have about the 1220 platform and things that you saw today on my screen, and we will get started. And please, Ashley or Amanda, if you can't see this, jump in and let me know. I'm going to assume that we're good to go, and the screen share is here. But once I've been working with 1220, but prior to 1220, my career path was actually in higher education. I worked in student affairs for nearly 10 years. So I mentioned that because I want you to know that I completely understand kind of the way the field is today and things that are going on in higher education. And I understand that landscape and also understand what you do as career services professionals to support student success at the university. And what I want to share with you today is how the 1220 platform can help you obviously continue to do that. And we support student success, but can help make your career services operations more, I guess, hassle-free and a little bit more effective and efficient. So I'm going to first get started by telling you a little bit about who we are and what we do, obviously. So 1220, we've been around for more than 10 years. We started back in 2007 with two founders and started as a data and analytics company, which is what we are. We are now a team of over about 40 employees headquartered in Santa Monica, California, which was the first image. You could see the Santa Monica Pier there. And we kind of share this mindset called built by the beach. So if any of you ever want to, are in the area in Santa Monica and want to come visit, please come by and see us, whether you're a current partner of ours or considering to be one in the future. As I mentioned, 1220, we've grown tremendously over the last decade. We now work with over 2 million students from 650 programs across the world. And the number of programs that we work with are all different. We work with business schools, law schools, centralized university career centers. We work with schools of engineering, schools of art and design. Anywhere that there's a career center, 1220 platform, the 1220 platform software can help meet your career services needs. And because we work with over 2 million students from some of the biggest and best schools with some of the brightest students in the world, we also work with 175,000 of the world's top employers as well. And this is important because this is where your students and alumni are going to get their jobs and see jobs posted on the job board. And the employers that work with 1220 love posting the jobs to the 1220 job board because of the qualified students and schools represented on our platform. One of the things to keep in mind about 1220 that makes us different is we are not a one-size-fits-all software. We are very customizable. We have a very modern interface, and we are flexible, and we work with you to customize the platform to meet your student and your university needs. We know not every career services office operates the same. Many of you have different services. Some of you service alumni. Some of you do not service alumni. Some of you, have different terminology, career fairs, different things that you different. We want to be flexible. So one size fits all approach, that's not us. We definitely are customizable, and the schools that are on the 12Twenty platform and are partners with us love that customizability to be able to tailor it to their operations. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what we do today. So what we're going to talk about today are the modules at the top, but I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of all the different things at 12Twenty and what we do. And for career services, our career services platform, we call this our CSM. The CSM is essentially your appointments, your job board. These are all the things that you use to run your day-to-day operations. Your appointments, your job board, your events, any on-campus interviews, any of those modules. That is what the CSM is. The outcome data and analytics. This is a space that we actually really kind of invented. This is really that first destination survey data collection and reporting in the 12Twenty platform. And what I like to tell people is that we've helped, especially having worked in higher education before, and I can appreciate this, and this is what many of our partners love most about us, is especially with things like first destination surveys, we've helped eliminate the Excel spreadsheet process from the entire first destination data collection and reporting process, which is really cool. And I'll show you, I'm going to go more in depth in each of these, but I'm going to especially go in depth in that and show you how we've accomplished that. And then our ERM, which is our employer relations management module. This is essentially like a Salesforce, but customized for career centers. So this is going to allow you to track notes, activities, any email exchanges with the employers, companies, and contacts at each of those companies as well. Very, very sophisticated, customer relation management, our employer relationship management is, and this is something that really helps separate us and sets us apart. And lastly, our student experiential learning. This is where you can track hours, any documents that students need to fill out for internships, paid or unpaid. You can have different approvers and set the different approval process. That's all a customizable workflow. And that is a very, very cool feature on 12Twenty as well. And then I'm going to just very briefly talk about, where we're at now. And it's pretty cool because now we've also entered into working with alumni. So we've actually been working with alumni since, 2014 or 15. In terms of alumni going on there and looking up jobs on the job board. And they've had access to, things that the students have access to, like appointments, attending different events. Maybe it's that career fair, the resource library, being able to access that. They've had access for years. But starting about around 2015, many schools started reaching out to us and saying, how we do the first destination survey process so well, and they're getting high engagement rates and high results. And schools started asking, can we do that for alumni as well? Can we start sending out a survey as a school to track where alumni are in their current career path and what their employment data looks like? They wanted to start tracking data on alumni 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. And last year we launched it, and this is something that has been our fastest growing module and tool for career services, is this alumni job survey and analytics. And if this is something you're interested in, I can share more about that another time. Please feel free to reach out to me. But along with this is the alumni relationship management. So this has allowed actually alumni relations to work hand in hand with career centers to really track the alumni updated contact information, different notes on alumni. And the last piece too, what we launched as well, is this directory connections and engagement. And this allows for student to student, student to alumni, and alumni to alumni connections and engagement. And schools have been using this as a mentorship platform. They've been using this, especially in today's world right now where everything is virtual. They've been using this to network with each other, both students and alumni, and students to student interaction. So those tools have been some of our fastest growing modules and resources available to career centers. But we're going to focus on the top 4 modules today. The first thing you'll notice is 12Twenty, we have an mobile first user interface. Your students, we know they're on mobile. They're on their phones, they're on their iPads. The system has to be configured for them to be on the go. When they're using the 12Twenty platform, is typically, I'm sure, when they're on the bus on campus, they're on the go. They're between classes and they pull out their phone and they want to look up different jobs and employers. This is something that we've done really, really well, and it is very customizable. And what I'm going to show you, the cool thing about 12Twenty is that we actually allow you to brand your platform the way you want. So we don't actually, we don't push the 12Twenty brand at all. We want your platform to look like an extension of the university. There's many reasons for this, right? Students, when they know this looks like and feels like an extension of the university, they're more apt to engage with the platform, but they feel they definitely can trust that, right? So we want you to be able to brand this in any way you want. You can see here, this opening homepage here. This is how Oklahoma State brands theirs. North Dakota State University, awesome photo of their campus, beautiful flowers. This is how they brand theirs. University of Denver, awesome landscape here. And the cool thing is many schools, including Denver, they'll update these photos 2, 3, 4 times a year to change with the seasons. So as the seasons change, and it might have snow on the ground in Denver, they might update this photo to match kind of the way the seasons are. And that is a very, very cool approach. And it can be done very easily in 2 clicks by you, the administrators. We also allow you to call the platform what you want. So for example here, Texas Tech University, their career center, they call it Higher Ed Raiders. That's what they use in terms of terminology for their platform. Missouri, this is how they brand theirs. And lastly, USC, another school of ours in LA, this is how they brand theirs with the Trojan. When a student enters the platform, they're going to see a captivating student and alumni homepage catered to them. And one of the things I'd like to kind of talk about here is we have an algorithm that really makes this specific to those students. So based on the jobs that they've looked up, based on the things that they've said they're interested in, any of the target employers, different events based on maybe their major, the algorithm's going to populate different sections here to be customizable to that student. And what we typically see is, and we're thinking about this all the time, is we want students to use the platform. We want them there to be engaged. We don't want them to just have access to the platform. We want them to really engage with it. And right here, we can see off the bat, the recommended job listings and the recommended events, about 25% of the engagement on the platform right away from the home screen with students is with these 2 sections. They're looking up those jobs. That's important. And they're thinking about what's out there for them in the future and any events they might want to attend in the future at the Career Center. Very, very cool. And our algorithm works very, very well for this. So I'm going to jump in now and talk to you about the career service platform, some of our tools before we get into some of the other modules. Right now in 12Twenty, there's over 1.3 million qualified resumes. And this is important because employers absolutely love this because we have the industry's most advanced job board. Employers love the 12Twenty platform and love posting jobs to this because they're getting the qualified applicants applying to the jobs that they post. This is very, very important. If they didn't have that, they'd post on other job boards. But we talk to employers all the time to make sure it's meeting their needs, and they're very satisfied because we have, as I mentioned, over 2 million students from some of the world's top universities. Cool feature here with the job board that students can take advantage of, students and alumni, is the Save Search notification feature. So if they find a search and they see a couple job opportunities that they want, they can save that search, and the 12Twenty system is going to send them notifications and emails automatically to let them know, if they were looking for a specific marketing job, for example, in Dallas, the system is going to send them a notification to let them know so that they can keep updated on that. And in 2019, there was over 10 million notifications were sent. So students are using this. They love it to have that feed coming to them, and our system is driving that information directly to them, which they're engaging with at high rates. Appointments. This is obviously a huge piece of what you do as career service coaches and advisors, is the appointments with students, and especially today. Obviously, appointments, we don't know what the fall looks like quite yet. Hopefully, many of you and all of you will be back on campus and things will be returning to normal. But with our appointments module, it's very easy to book. You can set appointments. We really tailored our appointments to almost like a Google Calendar, how easy and user-friendly Google Calendar is. You can drag and drop and create appointments and appointment blocks in the 12Twenty system. You can make the appointments as open or as I guess I'll say selective as you would like. You can choose walk-in hours where it'll show that you're available as a career coach for appointments, and students can't book an appointment, but they know that you're available with your walk-in hours. You can set that. You can make it tailored to students of a specific major, and maybe it's for a specific reason. Resume review for marketing majors only. You can set those appointments. And the cool thing is, based on the student groups in the 12Twenty platform, only students that are eligible to see that will actually be able to see and book those appointments. So that is very, very cool. And it is very easy to use. Last year, we had over 700,000 synced calendar events with our two-way calendar sync. So if you're a Google Calendar school or an Office 365 school, this is something that works. Our CEO likes to say, this is two-way calendar sync that actually works. Many systems say they can do two-way sync, but 12Twenty, it absolutely works seamlessly. And this is important because we know, as I mentioned, we're trying to make career services hassle-free. We do not want you to have to manage both your personal calendar, your work calendar, and the 12Twenty calendar, right? We want you to just be able to have that information on your work calendar and your 12Twenty calendar, share information back and forth, so that if something were to come up, and your director were to send you a meeting request, our system's going to recognize that and maybe block off that hour meeting request during one of your appointment blocks, for example. So this is something that works very flawlessly and allows you to not have to update multiple calendars, saving you time and energy. Our system, as I mentioned, is very modern and mobile friendly for check-ins and events and those appointments, as we were talking about. And the unique thing is each student and alumni is actually given a unique QR code. So if they sign in for an event or an appointment, in your university career center has an iPad that they can scan right at the front and make that note on that student or alumni profile that, hey, they checked in for this particular event. Let's say it's a career fair, or they checked in for this particular appointment. And it's going to track those things. Just something that's very easy to allow you to keep updates and for students to keep updates on the different events and appointments that they've attended as well. In terms of career fairs, one of the cool things that we offer is we have an integration with Stripe that allows you to charge those career fair, maybe registration fees. If many of you, I'm sure, charge registration fees to the employers that attend your career fair, you can do that right in the 12Twenty system, which is very cool. If you have sponsorship levels of the career fair, you can, of course, set settings to charge for sponsorships and collect that. And there, you can do all the invoicing and payments right in the 12Twenty platform. Very, very easy with our integration with Stripe, and manage these invoices. We want it to be essentially a one-stop shop for all of your needs, and this is another example of that. Our resource library. This is a tool for you to essentially upload videos or links to articles, anything that you might feel you need or want to allow students to access for resources. Maybe it's a proper interview attire article or link, or maybe it's a video on resume tips. Whatever that looks like, the resource library is, as it's called, as their own resource for anything that you want. So you as the administrators have the ability to upload anything that you want in this, any PDF files, videos, as I mentioned, or links to other third-party sites with things like this. All right, so next up, I'm going to show you our outcome data and analytics. And as I mentioned, this is really one of the things that we are best known for and people love 12Twenty for, is the data collection and reporting process. As I mentioned, 12Twenty, we really kind of invented this space and invented what this process looks like. And we've really changed how this process looks for many people. And speaking of that process, we kind of like to say the traditional method and process is broken. And what I mean by that is universities, when they send out the first destination survey, it typically kind of looks something like this. So usually they're sending out, some type of clunky survey. Maybe it's through a SurveyMonkey or Qualtrics, or one of those built-in surveys from a different platform. They're sending that out. They go through this process of begging students to fill out data. And at some point, that survey has to close. And let's say it's 6 months post-graduation. That survey closes, and then somebody at the university is left with having to clean up the spreadsheets. Remember, I talked about that Excel spreadsheet process. This is something that's very tedious. It's very annoying for whoever has to clean up all the data on that to aggregate things properly, right? If any of you have ever dealt with this, you know what I'm talking about. But the cleaning up of the spreadsheets after a large survey like a first destination survey is very, very tedious. And then at the end of that, once that survey's been closed, all that data is aggregated properly after many months of doing that, the university is left with one single static PDF report that, maybe the institutional research or career services office owns and houses, and nobody else has that access to that information. The Career Center essentially becomes the data keepers. And one of the things that happens with that is you're often getting requests from different deans and different people at the university and constituents on, reports. Could you run a report for me on this? Could you do this? This process is broken, and it's not efficient, and it's not necessarily effective either. And I'm going to show you how 12Twenty, we take a new and different approach. So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to show you this intelligence survey here in a second, the instant stats and reporting. And I just want to focus on this for 1 second, this data for everyone mindset. And what we mean by this is at 12Twenty, we believe this data is very important. This first destination survey data can be used by many constituents and individuals at the university, not just the Career Center. Of course, your deans, maybe your provost wants this information, but why are we not sharing this information with others? Like, why does Career Center advisors and coaches not maybe have this information at their fingertips? Why do students not have this information and this data at their fingertips as well? And one of the best examples I can share with you is our neighbors down the street in Westwood at UCLA. They've been sharing this data with their MBA students for years. And when they did that, within the first 3 years of sharing, data such as compensation and offers and different things like that in the offer month, they were able to help close the gender wage gap 9% between their female students and male students. This is very, very important. And this is something obviously higher ed professionals preach that we need to do a better job of, and we all know, and this is something that's not a nice to have, this is a need to have type of thing in 2020. So sharing this data is very important. I'm going to show you what this looks like and how we do that. So I'm going to jump into the outcome survey here. On the right, we have desktop. On the left, we have mobile. The cool thing, as I mentioned about 12Twenty, it's customizable. If you want to add questions to your survey, you can do that very easily. You have the power and the ability in the site settings to add any questions that you want to the survey. On average, our survey takes about 3 minutes to complete, and I'll show you the kind of the high response rates, engagement rates we get for that. So I'm going to jump in. So I'm going to show you an example of what an accepted job offer looks like and some of the cool features that we have with our autofill technology. So for example, here, let's say a student who's filling out a first destination survey tells us that they're completing an outcome and they get a job at Amazon. Our system's going to auto-populate that employer tab to Amazon Inc. We're going to work with you at the Career Center to upload all of your employers that you currently have in your contacts so that this auto-populates for that student. And the reason that's important is because if one student puts Amazon, one student puts Amazon.com, one student spells Amazon wrong with 2 different Z's, right? Because they're filling this out on their phone. You on the back end in that traditional method I mentioned have to go in and clean up that data to aggregate it properly for when you go to run a report on who your top employers are, right? That's a very tedious process. So let's take care of that and populate this automatically. Another example, a student tells us they get a job at Google as one of their outcomes. Let's also populate the industry pick list. We know Google is a tech company, so why not populate this industry pick list as well? And we work with you to do this as well, to categorize it how you want to meet your needs. And this is important because if you've ever filled out a survey where they're asking you to type of industry and it's a 60 to 70 different industry pick list, that becomes tedious and kind of annoying, and it allows, and that's the type of thing that leads to survey fatigue and people completely bailing out of the survey altogether. So let's populate that industry pick list as well. This is why on average, our survey takes 3 minutes to complete, and why we are seeing response rates in the high 90 percentiles as well, which I'll show you in a second. We also have a graduate school survey. So for example, here, if a student wasn't going to go on to a full-time job after graduation, but they're going to continue grad school, they can fill out a specific survey for that, which you as administrators can run reports on And students could also run a data report on this with the research tools, which I'll show you later today. And they can run that and see, the different schools that their peers are going to for grad school. Very cool. We now have we've had well over 1 million outcomes reported in our company's history. This is something we are very, very proud about. As I mentioned, those high response rates and engagement rates, this is what we do. This is what we do well. If you're not getting 85, 90, 95% response rates from your first destination survey, we need to talk. We need to talk and show you what we do at 1220. And last year we had 8 programs with a 100% response rate. We had 33 programs with a 95% response rate or greater. This is something we are very, very proud of. One of our best success stories last year was a 24% response rate without 1220, and we brought that school up to a 74% response rate in year 1. As I mentioned, this is what we do and do really, really, really well. Now, the cool thing is, as I mentioned, the data cleanup, all the reports are in the 1220 system. You own this data and all the reports can be run. We've eliminated that Excel spreadsheet process. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to run different reports here. And in fact, many of the reports that you need to run for your school rankings and your different associations, that can be done right in the 1220 platform as well. And one of the cool ones, of course, we're here on the NACE platform, so I'd be remiss if I didn't share with you our one-click NACE report. So this is very cool. So on the left-hand side here, you can see that the standard reports are highlighted. And for your universities, if NACE is someone that you report to, you can click on the one-click NACE report, and our system in one click is going to generate the NACE report exactly as it intends to be and filtered exactly the way it needs to be that NACE requires. You can export that results, send it off, and in one click, you have that NACE report exactly as needed. It doesn't matter how many questions and different questions you add to your survey for outcomes. Our system is going to identify only the ones that NACE requires and filter it and put it exactly the way NACE wants for you to turn in that report. Very, very cool. Big time saver, as I mentioned earlier. You also can do year-over-year outcome reporting in the 1220 platform. As I mentioned, in that traditional method with Excel spreadsheets, typically we see that each year is on a different Excel spreadsheet when schools aren't using 1220. So when somebody calls down, a dean calls down and says, as of June 22nd, how many of our students have reported outcomes? You could say, 75% of our students have reported outcomes, or 80% of our students have reported outcomes. The dean's going to say, great. How does that compare for our engineering students last year? You then would have to, in that traditional method, pull up a different Excel spreadsheet and cross-compare, merge data, do all those things. They're just tedious and cumbersome. And once again, you're that gatekeeper to all this data, so that's why they're coming to you. In the 1220 system, you can do year-over-year reporting very quickly. And the great thing is this is done in real time. So you can run this report in April, you can run this in May, June, whenever, in real time until you determine when to close that survey. And you can see the different reports year over year in the system. This is very, very cool and very helpful and a big time saver, making career services hassle-free. All different charts and dashboards can be populated in the 1220 platform. If you use Tableau, you can absolutely integrate our system with Tableau, which many schools do, but for many schools that we work with and many of our partners, this charts and dashboards tool with all these different charts that you can see here is exactly what they're looking for and they need. Sometimes when they just need to send a screenshot for, a director's meeting or an annual report, they can screenshot this and put it into that, PDF file or that Excel file or whatever it might look like to run those reports. A cool feature here I want to just kind of very quickly share with you is our distribution feature. So I talked about maybe that dean of engineering who calls down and asks you to run reports from time to time. Maybe that dean wants you to run 5 different reports specifically on those engineering students. And you know what? The dean requested that you send that to them the first Monday of every month. The 1220 system with this report distribution feature is very cool and a big time saver. So you can actually run those reports, select them in the columns on the right, turn on the distribution feature, select the frequency to the first Monday of every month, and the 1220 system is going to automatically email that dean of engineering those 5 reports that they requested without you having to put a reminder on your calendar to run those reports the first Monday of every month. The system is going to do that automatically. And the great thing is it comes to their email directly as a dynamic URL that they just click on, and it's uploaded automatically. It's populated automatically in a web browser tab for them, so they don't even have to log into the 1220 system, which is very cool. Public access. So we have a public access feature as well, which allows you to run any reports that maybe you want to show off and talk about the great things that your students are doing and allow admissions to have access to this. So one of the best examples is that I can share is that many schools use this dynamic URL. They embed it on the Career Center homepage, and admissions loves this because when they're meeting with prospective students and parents, they'll just pull up the Career Center homepage and show the 3, 4, 5, however many different reports that are on the Career Center's homepage that are populated dynamically in real time, and they can show off the great outcomes and experiences that their students are having at their universities. It's very, very cool. Now I want to talk to you quickly here about these research tools. And this is one of the big things that really sets 1220 apart are these research tools and how students and alumni can do their own research on the 1220 platform versus having to email you for questions that we want them to be able to find out on their own. So I'm going to give you a couple different examples, and I'm going to talk to you about how you as advisors can benefit from this information, and of course, how the students themselves can benefit. So as I mentioned, if you chose to give students access to these research tools, they can run all different reports and select different filters based on information that's specific to them. They want to know different information. So what we're looking at here is you can see we're looking at the tech industry and we're looking at job offers by month. You see that spike in September, and you also see a little bit of a spike in May and June. That's because at this particular school, all the big tech companies tend to hire in September. The big tech companies around this particular school hire in September. And many of the startups, they do their hiring later in May and in June. And at this particular school, you can see that little spike. But if we take that same report and go to a completely different school with different employers and different companies around, we get a different story altogether. So at this particular school, you don't see that spike in September. That's because this particular school doesn't have a lot of big tech companies around, but they have a lot of different startups. And you can see if I'm a student at this school, the messaging and the idea for me on job offers and when to expect those and when to be applying absolutely changes, because now I can focus my time and energy on and start to prepare for May and June when many of the startups around my school and where I want to continue to live are doing their hiring. This is very, very cool and specific to their school. What we're looking at here is undergrads going into business and looking at internship offers. So the best example I can give here is that I'm a career coach or advisor, and Mary comes into my office and tells me after junior year she's going to take a break and take the summer off, and she's exhausted and she just wants to take the summer off, and she'll come back senior year refreshed, start to look for a job then. That's fine. I can talk to Mary and say, hey, Mary, you earned that, you deserve that. But let's look at and see what the data says for School of Business by month. We can see here, there's a big spike in August. Mary, that's because many of our students are getting those job offers post-summer internship, right? So now as an advisor or coach, I can encourage Mary to stick it out, hang strong, get that summer internship, and come August, very likely she'll have that job offer from that company, and then she can kind of relax a little bit more senior year, knowing she's already got the job offer in hand. This is very cool, and this is a way that we can advise and coach students differently. Same thing here with liberal arts students. David comes to my office in January as a career coach and says, I feel like I have a job offer yet. I can say, let's look and see what other liberal arts and science students is like yourself when they've said that they've gotten their job offer. David, you can see here, I'm showing you the data. It's April or May. You're absolutely fine. It's only January. Come April or May, focus your time and energy there, and very likely you'll have a job offer down the road, as many of your liberal arts and sciences students have reported in the past. Students don't want you to just tell them information. They actually want to see it. They want you to prove that. And that's kind of today's world, is we need to be able to show them this data and be transparent with the data at hand. Here we can also see different cities. So students can run these reports and see, where are my peers saying they're getting jobs, and what does an average base salary look like in those different cities. They can run reports on that, and they can get as specific as maybe they want to only see just the last 5 years, right? They can run any type of reports on it. We like to say that we are kind of the experts at filters as well. So you can get as granular as you want when running these reports. I like this report because in higher ed, we've talked to students from basically the time they walk in the door at orientation to the time they graduate that networking is extremely important. And it absolutely is. There's no doubt about it. Networking is huge. But let's look at the data and see what the data says based on different industries and do things change. So we can see here specifically, if we're looking at tech students at this particular school, 36% of the tech students said that they got a job offer by networking. That was their industry offer by source. But the same school, if we're looking at consulting students, 36% of their students in consulting said that they actually got their job offer by on-campus interviews. So based on the different industry I'm going into or my different major or whatever, I know I might need to focus my attention a little bit differently because the data is telling me in consulting on-campus interviews where a major portion of students got their jobs. So this is how the data can help me as a student navigate my own career path a little bit better with better information. Here we can see, we can absolutely, the research tools is something that you wanted. We had one school in particular, this particular school here, they had us upload data all the way back to 2006. And what we're looking at here is how the tech industry has changed since 2006 to 2019. You can see in 2006, there wasn't a lot of students at this particular program going into the tech industry. Compare that to 2019, and over a third of their students are getting jobs in the tech industry. And this is extremely important. And the way the university can use this is they want to see this data because now they might need to change their curriculum. They might need to hire different career coaches and advisors, hire different professors. We might need to bring different employers on campus that are more in the tech industry because this is where our students are going. So the way that all the constituents at the university can benefit from using this data is right here in front of you. Same thing with healthcare. This particular school, 2012, nobody was going into healthcare. Compare that to 2018. Now they have over 100, students that reported outcomes going into the healthcare industry. Huge difference in trend for this particular school. And the last thing here I'm going to show you on these student research tools is, I mentioned that graduate school survey. Your students may want to know, where those where those schools are at that their peers are going to. They can run their own report, or you as an administrator can run a report, and they can see where their peers are going to. So here we have our fictitious site, prestigious universities. This is just a very quick example. But if I'm a student considering to go to grad school, I can run this report on my own and say, wow, I didn't realize that Alabama State University, right, was a high placement place for many of my peers. I might now consider going there or applying there for grad school. This is just another way that students can run their own reports and use these research tools to their benefit to navigate their own education and career path. So I'm going to change pace a little bit now. I appreciate you guys allowing me to show you those research tools. As I mentioned, that's one of the things that separates us and sets us apart very much at 1220. But I'm going to show you now this employer relations module. And I want to just focus on, once again, this is almost like a Salesforce, but it's built specifically for career centers. We know career center employer relations teams and directors, you have many companies and many contacts to keep track of at the university that you work with and that work with your students, right? We wanted a central hub in our platform for you to be able to track notes, track different activities. I'm going to show you what that looks like here. So the employer directory, you can see on the left-hand side there, the employer tab towards the top, this is your employer directory. This is where you can search and filter and look for any of the companies that you work with in your system. And I've got a quick little video here to just kind of show you what this looks like and how easy this is. So let's say you wanted to look up Google. We can click on Google after searching for them. You're going to see the Google kind of homepage with the basic information for them. We can see all the different activities that Google has been doing on campus, the contacts that work at Google that we have contacts for, all the different students they've hired, the locations of Google that they've hired our students at, any events that they've attended on campus, any on-campus interviews and job listings that Google currently has, any internship experiences as well, And the last piece here is the research tab, which I think is really cool because sometimes you just want a high level overview of each company, and you want to see, what are the top locations where our students are going when they get a job offer at Google. Students can run this as well. They can absolutely filter and search this employer tab and see these different things and start to get an idea of the companies that they want to work for. We have now created an enhanced employer profile page, which is something very cool that we're very proud of. And why this is important is because companies that we talk to, they want to be able to market themselves very, very well in front of the students to make them an attractive company for students to work for. So I'm going to show you this example of Google again. You can see at the top here, a beautiful hero image that Google can populate. When students will be able to look at these different things. The companies will have the power to create kind of their own message and show the different things that sets their company apart. And I love this piece at the bottom here, benefits, right? Many of your students are probably starting to wonder as soon as they graduate, what do benefits look like? They've never had to really think about benefits before. But companies can promote different benefits and cool things at their company. You can see here, on-site snacks is something that Google wants to use to market themselves to cater to students today. There's a 401k, the medical, the dental, all those different things, unlimited PTO. This is what helps set them apart. And this is just one of those little things that gets the information out in front of the students and alumni who might be looking at their employer page on 1220 and might want to work there. Very, very cool way for employers to be able to market themselves to students and alumni on the 1220 platform. But it's not just the employers we contacts that you work with. And on 1220, we have over 500,000 contacts tracked on 1220 today. I'm sure that number grows every single day. But we want you to be able to track in the different activities of each of these contacts as well. And so one of the ways that they can do this is with the contact profile. So you can see a tab on the left. Once again, we're on the employer page previously. There's that contacts page. This is your directory of all the different employees that work at the different companies that have an association with your school. And so we can do the same thing. We can search and filter for any of these. Click on Steve's profile here, and we can see some of the basic information on Steve Martin right here. Is he an alumnus? That might be an important thing. When's Steve's birthday? You might want to use that to your advantage. Any activities that you've had with Steve, any notes that you've taken all time, any emails all time that you've sent back and forth with Steve Martin, events they've attended, any on-campus interviews or job postings that Steve posted himself to your campus. And then you can actually send them an email right here in the upper right-hand corner, upload a template if you'd like, and thank Steve Martin for being a top employer at your school. This is a centralized way and space for you to be able to track all the employers and contacts at your university. There's just so many people, it's hard to keep track of who's doing what, who you said what to, any of those meetings you've had, any of those cups of coffee you had, or notes you've taken on employers. And in 1220, we try and make that a breeze for you to make career services hassle-free by doing that right here in our ERM, which is our employer relationship management. We even have an activity stream, which was something that was requested that we build. It was an awesome idea. So we actually implemented this years ago. In this activity stream, say you're the director of a career center and you want one spot to just see all the different activities going on with all the employers and contacts between your career advisors or your students, you can do that here on the activity stream. It's a one-stop shop, if you will, to see all the different activities, any emails sent, notes tracked, or any events posted or jobs posted by different employers. And it's done in chronological order, and you can just sort through. So if you're the career center director, there's just so much that you're doing. I get it. I've been there in higher ed that you guys wear many different hats. This is one way that you guys can see it in one centralized place to just kind of make it easier for you. The target employers, this is a cool feature. So your students are targeting employers that they want to work for, right? You can run reports on who are students targeting. Who do they want to work for? And in this specific example, you can see 1220, you can see Amazon, you can see Apple. You can actually run reports on this as an employee relations team to start to make decisions on who are our students targeting and are we inviting them to our events? Do we have a relationship with those employers? If not, we need to reach out to Amazon or Apple, for example, or 12Twenty, for example, and get them to campus to hire our students. This is really, really cool. Your students are doing this already on their own, but now they can do it right here in the 12Twenty platform, and you can run reports on it. And the last thing I'm going to share with you is the experiential learning outcome here. And so this is a place where you can track internships. You can set the different activities. Maybe students have to upload reflections or different documents for their internships or experiential learning, credit, no credit type of courses. You can do that. And you can also set any of the approvals, and you can customize the approval workflow here for students and employers. And the cool thing that I like to share about this is we don't want your employers to, we don't want it to be difficult for them to sign off and approve of specific things with student internships when they're hosting your student. So when they get sent an approval and it's their turn in the approval process to sign a form, it's a login free supervisor approval e-sign form. It comes to them automatically in their email. They click on a dynamic URL, they e-sign it, and they're done. They do not need to log into the 12Twenty system to manage all these. The system will prompt them automatically and send them that email, which just makes it very easy for the employers as well to complete the approval process. That is all I have for you today on kind of our platform. I'll show you some system integrations here just so you guys are aware. Of course, single sign-on is probably a key piece that you guys want so that students can continue to use the same email and the same password, and administrators can continue to use the same email and same password to log into the system. We want it to look and feel like your school. So that begins with email and password and feeling like that it's an extension of the university. And our API, our RESTful API, can connect to any platform and any software that you guys currently use on campus, whether it's your registrar's office software, Salesforce, what have you. We can connect to that to make information and data sharing back and forth even easier. And this is just a customer success story. Indiana uses it. One of the things that I love here is this bottom part in pink. Any staff member can now research and answer their own questions of data, and that's an essential advantage to 12Twenty. So that is what we do, and I want to thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'm going to take them now, but if there's anything specifically that you want to reach out to me for, please feel free to email me at Eric, ERIC, Garvelink, GARVELINK @1220.com. Thank you for your time today. And with that, I will turn it over to Nace to kind of close out the session and take it from there.
Eric, I sent some questions over that we had in the chat. If you wanted to answer those, we still have some time.
All right, let's take a look. One moment, please. So one of the questions somebody asked was, how do students get the app? We actually don't use an app. We found that we want people to be able to navigate it on a web browser. So the 12Twenty platform is mobile friendly and is not a specific app. It's just a web browser that automatically configures to the size of their mobile device. So that is something that we did extensive research on and just kind of found that that was the best way, and people were doing that because many times they're going to get something from the university in their email and it's a unique, it's a dynamic URL or URL, and that's going to populate the 12Twenty platform in basically a web browser for them on those mobile devices. What if an employer is not in the system? A situation where a grad has landed a job with a new employer who has not previously hired from school. So once again, this person is asking, what if an employer isn't in the system, but a student's going to fill out that survey, and how does the system recognize that or populate that? The cool thing is, as I mentioned, we work with you ahead of time to populate all the employers, but of course there's going to be times where maybe, I'm just going to throw an example out there, a mom and pop shop isn't in your employer database already. They're not in the 12Twenty system, and a student goes and fills that out on the survey. The survey is going to still allow them to complete that. And the cool thing is the 12Twenty platform is going to actually send you a notification on a new employer that you will be able to see, hey, somebody filled out a new employer in the system on their outcome survey, And you have the ability to approve, deny that, maybe they put something in incorrectly. You can absolutely select that. And the cool thing is that after the first time that you approve that, the next time a student goes and enters that employer in the system for their outcome survey, the system's going to recognize that and auto-populate them the same way you saw in the examples. So the system learns as it goes once you hit the approval on that particular employer. So that's a great, great question. Are any of these colleges and universities offering incentives for the completing surveys? It really depends. I mean, that's a hard question to answer because many, many schools are doing it differently. This year, I'm sure it was completely different for all of you because many schools rely on those on-campus events. So any of those particular schools that rely on grad fairs or graduation, you didn't have that this year. So we've seen engagement rates for people that are not on 1220 platform take a major dip. Whereas with 1220, the system's so easy to send that survey out and message students about. And because our students are so used to frequently engaging with the 1220 platform, it's something that's very normal for them. So they went in and they were still maintained high survey response rates and results, but it is very different. I would say no two schools are the same on how they distribute and market the survey as well, but we do tend to get high response rates. We've never had a school join us and get lower response rates, which is something we're very proud about. Trying to stay on this, and it says, someone just asked, do you use this alongside of Salesforce? Yes, I think it was on that slide, but our system and RESTful API does connect and integrate with Salesforce, which is something that we do frequently. It's very easy for us to do. Salesforce is absolutely something that we can connect with, as many schools are on that for various reasons, either with their alumni or with any employers, maybe at the university that they work with, but yes, we do integrate with that. Is there a space in the ERM portion for notes where we can personally input on any engagement history we've had with each employer? And what do the analytics look like for those notes? Yes, you can absolutely enter any type of engagement that you've had with those employers, past engagement. You can add and attach notes to each contact, not just the company, if you'd like, or you can do that with the company, and you can absolutely run different reports on that. You can run reports essentially on anything that you're tracking in the platform. You can run reports on in the 1220 system. Just trying to see if there's anything else in here that I have not answered. I see a couple different Salesforce questions, but as I mentioned, yes, we integrate with Salesforce, and that is very easy for us to do. We do it differently with all different schools. They might only want certain things tracked from Salesforce and put into the 1220 platform. We can, or maybe it's the entire, all of the fields that they have for their contacts within Salesforce. We can pull that over as well. Let's see if there's anything else maybe that I missed. It looks like that's about it. I think I've got all of the questions. Hopefully this was very helpful for you. Last question here. What steps do employers take to connect with the school, or how do we limit duplicate employers? Great question. So that happens frequently, right? So you might have John from, I'm going to just use mom and pop shop again. John from mom and pop shop sets up an employer profile with your particular school. And then, Mary from mom and pop shop does the exact same thing. And now you have a duplicate employer profile. When that happens, the system will notify you as an administrator, and you can approve, deny, or even merge employers. So in that specific example, you're going to want to merge those two employers. And let's say John, I'll use General Electric. Let's say John signed up as an employer from General Electric on your platform, and Mary signed up as GE as an employer. When you see that and you see those types of things, you can absolutely merge those two and put both of those contacts under just one of the employer contacts, which is, let's say it was General Electric you chose to go with. But that is something that you can absolutely do, is merge those. Thank you for the question, Patricia. This is an impressive system. What is your pricing structure? So because we're customizable, we work with you to figure out what meets your needs. The pricing system is very much based on a tier and on a modular basis. So I showed you the ODA, the Outcome Data and Analytics, which many schools use hand in hand and alongside of other existing platforms, because maybe they're locked into a contract with another platform, but they really want the outcome data and analytics piece from us, and they don't necessarily need the CSM yet. That is something that we do as well. Many schools are doing that now because of our data reporting and collection. Our data collection and reporting tools are so powerful. They want it now that you can do that. And then what many schools do is once they've added on one piece, you can add on any of the other pieces you want. So there's different features with that throughout the modules. And we really work with you to find out what's important to you in your school to meet your career services and your student needs to select those features. And as I mentioned, it is on a little bit of a tier system. So, so there's a tier 1 piece, maybe, which is some of the basics, tier 2 and a tier 3. And then even some of our modules like experiential learning, it's a one tier type of system where if you want experiential learning, you get all of the features listed in that as well. So it really just depends on what it is you're looking for. If you want the CSM, the ODA, the ERM, and the experiential learning module, that is of course just different based on what you want. But that's how we kind of work with that. And that is a way that we are able, that's one of the advantages of 1220 is that we are customizable and not a one size fits all out of the box type of software. We want to work with you to make it work best for your school and your students. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I think that's it. I know we're coming to a close here. And as I mentioned, I'll share with you again. I'll just kind of reiterate that if you have any questions, you can either email partnerships@1220.com or my name, Eric, ERIC, .garvelink, GARVELINK @1220.com, and we will be sure to get you connected. If you just are interested in seeing more, or you want to start to look at what this looks like for your school, reach out. Let's talk, and let's just see what we can do to help meet your needs. So I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Eric, for a very informative session, and thank you, participants, for attending today's session. This officially concludes the webinar, and you may now sign off.